It's time now to review headlines from today's newspapers with the Ombudsman of This Day and the Rise Media Group, as well as This Day Newspaper Limited's Group Executive Director, Kayode Komolafe. Hi, KK. Good morning.
Good morning, Adifemi.
KK, good morning.
Good morning, Steve. Good morning, Oji.
Welcome to the Sunday Tonic.
Sunday Tonic.
Okay, so we begin with This Day, the newspaper of record, where we have the lead story, a new COVID-19 strain concerns mount over planned visit of Ramaphosa to Nigeria. With the riders, 27 EU countries, US, 6 others banned flights from Southern African countries. On top of that, in a tribute to the crack, Guso highlights Nigeria's role to end apartheid regime, says Thatcher asks Nigeria to ascertain South African leaders' commitment to majority rule. On top of the masthead on the strip, again, police PSC set to clash over recruitment of 10,000 constables, which is on page 5 of the paper. And on the window, CBN set to establish International Financial Center at Eko Atlantic City, targets pool of global funds. And last but not the least, Abdul Salami, Africa must stop using force to maintain peace. That will be found on page 67 of today's This Day newspaper. KK, those are the stories on the cover for today.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. I think the issue of the day is public health.
Yes,
We can only hope that we are not having another public health emergency on our hand. And by the way, what we have is a coronavirus strain, not COVID-19 strain. COVID-19 is the disease caused by coronavirus. So it's the virus that can have a strain, not the disease. Now, I think it is important to strike a balance between a sense of caution, as well as calmness, because the instinctive response of, especially in Nigeria now, is that you should not panic. This is just another strain. But as you could see, other countries are not taking it that way. Already, you have about 5 countries that have banned flights, from South Africa. I think to be alert, to it is a wise thing to do, and it's also scientific. That is actually following the science, because the truth of it is that even the experts do not yet know, the true nature, of the strain, how it mutates, the severity, of the disease, if it causes, the coronavirus disease. And in this particular case, as we have both on the front page, of both This Day and Punch, that the proposed visit of South African President Cyril Ramaphosa, is also causing some panic, because the president is going to come with a huge delegation. That means that you're having a lot of people from South Africa, visiting.
Do you think that in some parts, the reporting of this new strain has been perhaps underreported or not reported in its totality? I ask because, much like the Delta variant, when we hear that a new strain has been developed, the way that the stories have been reported genuinely makes you feel as though the countries that are mentioned in these headlines are the ones you need to be wary of. And that's why the UK, for example, slapped South Africa back onto its red list, and why it could be happening again. When really the story should be these countries, South Africa, for example, has discovered this new variant, isolated it, studied it, and found it in other countries, including England.
Absolutely.
So I think it's so sad that the world turns around and says, so God's something has happened in South Africa, when we should be commending them for their excellence.
For isolating it and saying that there's a new strain that you can also find elsewhere, including in the UK, in other countries.
Absolutely.
But then to now label it South African, that's again, we've come back to the African thing, and I think that we should change the
28 countries banning flights from Southern African countries, like that.
No, I think you guys are not correct.
Really?
Yes, no, I mean, nobody, I mean, I'm not sure anybody has labeled it as a South African thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the name for the new strain is Omicron, you know. I mean, that is following the Greek alphabet, you know, that's given to others, you know. I think the thing you're talking of a sense of surveillance, you know, and also alertness. You remember when this thing originated in Wuhan, in China,
yes,
you know. So what you do is that you try to isolate the problem, you know, the virus. You know, if you suspect that it's been, I mean, isolated, you know, in a particular spot, you know.
Yeah.
So what you do is to limit the movement, you know, the interaction, you know, with that particular sport, you know. So I think what those other countries, what they are doing, you know, being a question. So it's a question of, you know, defense, you know, and that is not necessarily stigmatizing, South Africa, you know. That was precisely.
Are you sure about that, KK?
No,
yes, I
doubt it.
Found in those countries already. What South
No,
Africa?
you know,
like
Professor Tomori said on Arise over the weekend.
Yeah.
Are we sure that it is not even in Nigeria? Are we sure that it's not in America? Are we sure it's not in China? You know, but what we know, I mean, what the science tells us now is that the place where it has been isolated, detected, you know, is South Africa. So what you do is to limit the movement, you know.
And
There should be a credit. The credit should go to South Africa for saying that there's a new strain, and that same strain is found in other countries. It didn't go from South Africa to other countries.
That is why we are getting it wrong. For instance, when it started in China, you know, and flights, you know, were banned, you know, from Wuhan. I mean, more or less, I mean, you could not fly into the country, that particular part of China, not the whole of China. I mean, no movement into Wuhan and no movement out. That was not a sanction. It is just taking a precautionary step.
Yes, so if you
impose a travel ban, you know, on a country where it is detected, I don't think we should interpret it as a punishment, you know, or as a sanction.
Actually, it's the first thing to do.
It's a precautionary measure. Yeah.
Okay, I think we should move away from this story.
It's a difficult one.
But it is important that we should know this.
The point you made about countries defending themselves when it came to China is understandable, because that was the beginning of the pandemic, and the world agreed that it's believed that this virus started from China.
Yes.
But with this Omicron variant, it feels as though with these flights being cancelled to Southern African countries, it feels as though what these countries are saying is that it started with you people, and we're going to protect our masses from you people because you've done it again. And what I'm saying is that's not truly what's happening here, because according to South Africa, these strains originated in countries outside of the African continent.
So you're just
I'm afraid that is the wrong interpretation.
Topic, right? But that shouldn't be.
Yeah.
That's what countries should do. They should
put their country. If it's that, then countries should go under lockdown. If you found the strain in the UK, should the UK not go into lockdown?
It's still being studied, and the first thing to do is to have those flight restrictions so that you know.
To only Southern African countries.
Yes.
Not shutting down people within their own countries from leaving so that they don't spread a variant that was found in their country to other parts of the world. I think that if you
that's the essence of a travel ban. If UK imposes a travel ban on South Africa, that means that you cannot travel from UK to South Africa.
Yes.
I mean, is that
and South Africa into the UK.
No, I mean, what I'm saying that we should not see it as a sanction, you know, as a form of punishment, you know, but as a public health, you know, precautionary step.
This is
because
a
even it happens, it could even happen within a country.
Yeah.
You know, for instance, if you say the strain, you know, is found in a particular region in a country, the health authorities can try to isolate, you know, that part and say that there should be no movement, you know, to that area, and no movement is also
Let us
allowed.
agree
that
to
would not
disagree on this one.
For me, the most interesting part of all this is the name. The Greek name, Omicron. But you know what? If the anagram for that, turn it around, it's moronic. Omicron.
Would you look at that?
Absolutely, respell it. Respell it. It's moronic.
I never thought of that. That is
you don't agree? No, just rewrite it. When they run out of names, we will see whether they come to Yoruba instead of Greek.
For now is the Greek. So let's take another very interesting story, which is also South Africa related.
Yes.
And that is the tribute by the former National Security Advisor, former Defense Minister, former Chief of Army Staff, former Chief of Military Intelligence.
The almighty Guzo.
Lieutenant General Ali Mohammed Guzo, I think the stuff that we have there, that tribute, is the kind of stuff we really have for, that should be in memoirs,
Yes.
And that, again, is a throwback, into history, to the very heroic role that Nigeria played in the, the whole of the decolonization process in South Africa, and in particular, in trying to rid South Africa of, in particular, of apartheid,
Yes.
It's just so that the initial contacts that were made with President de Klerk,
Yes.
when there were signals that he had a reformist, attitude, to correct, the wrongs, and to rebel against the establishment of which he was a leader, that is the apartheid establishment at that point. And that was when, during the administration of of President Ibrahim Babangida,
yes.
military rule, the contact started in 1989 and culminated finally into the visit, very surprising, of President de Klerk to Nigeria, and that was the first time any South African apartheid president, for that matter, will be visiting Nigeria. And also the collaboratory efforts, between the South African Intelligence Agency and the Nigerian Intelligence Agency, which did a lot of background work, in what eventually culminated into the end of apartheid, as we, come to know it. Like I said, that is the stuff,
yes.
That is, and also it's also why paying this tribute to the Klerk is also a tribute, to Nigeria for its leadership role. That is why today is very painful that you get stories of Nigerians being slaughtered on the street of South Africa,
yes.
And this is xenophobic of by a generation
exactly.
that does not have this sense of history,
Yes.
So I guess this kind of a story, is the kind of story that should be told in South Africa to know where they were coming from. That just a generation ago, that the huge role that Nigeria played, and that is the story General Guzo, telling in that very important tribute to de Klerk. Yeah.
All right, KK, we'll need to go on a short break now. When we return, of course, the newspaper review will continue. We'll be right back. Well, you're welcome back to the Morning Show on Arise News. We're still on with Mr. Kayode Komolafe, who is the ombudsman of This Day and Arise Media Group, and of course, This Day Newspaper Limited Group Executive Director. Still on the newspaper review for today.
Thank you.
We were on This Day. I think we can move on to
Another paper.
to This Day Style.
Yes.
Why are you smiling, Steve?
Because Dubai is around
Yes,
the corner.
Dubai is around the corner, and this is another edition of, the continuation on coverage of Arise Fashion Week. Now, this edition, they are focusing on 15 years of curating African fashion. And, we've been doing this for 15 years, from Lagos, Abuja, London, Paris, New York, Washington, D.C., to Johannesburg, Cape Town, Wine Valley, South Africa. And now it is happening in Dubai on the 3rd of December.
Yes.
Really exciting news, Rise Fashion Week. Now, this edition, I think it's a huge catalog of past collections of all the shows that we've done so far, starting from 2008, when, this was the year of the legends, This Day Music and Fashion Festival, Africa Rising, it was called at that time, before it became Arise Fashion Week, as a series of music and fashion shows across the globe, promoting Africa and African fashion to the world. And, this time around, we are seeing a few models. I feel like I've been left out now.
They dare not.
Did they do that?
They dare not. maybe they're whetting the appetite for this coming weekend.
No problem. I forgive all of them. But you can see all the supermodels from Naomi Campbell. We even had at one point Grace Jones. We had Tyson Beckford, and we had the music festival. Really, I don't know if you were. I'm sure you must have attended some of them. I mean, look at these big names that we've had.
The Lagos one and the London one.
Yes, you have.
Yeah.
So, did you see R. Kelly?
Yes, I did. In Lagos. Yes, I did. I was there.
Yeah. R. Kelly's problem. R. Kelly was a big problem even at that time. So I mean, yes, I mean we've done so much, and like this year is in collaboration with the
Expo 2020
Expo
Dubai.
2020 Dubai, and we are looking forward to
the General Powell
that.
one in London and Seal and everything. I was there.
Yes.
When he danced Yahoo.
Great.
Oh, wow.
I was there too.
Yeah, well, I think it's a great
Yes.
collection.
Adefemi, while you were
Yes.
trying to avoid, is it Micron? What's the name of the variant?
Omicron.
Again,
Omicron.
While you were trying to avoid it in Durban, we founded Genix Couture.
Is that so?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Genix Couture.
Yeah.
Tell us.
So no, I modeled before. Now I'm a journalist. And now Steve wants me to be a fashion designer, and he coined this name, Genix Couture.
I like it. Genix Couture.
Yeah, I'm going to trademark it.
And it will be in Dubai.
Exactly.
That is a great one.
Exactly.
Yes.
Good.
Okay.
Lovely.
All right.
Do we move on to Punch
Shall we
now?
move on to
7:30
the
it is.
punch?
Do you want to?
Sure. I mean, we might jump from the punch quickly to another paper because the punch covered the
almost all
COVID-19.
the same stories, yeah.
So if we move on to the Saturday Vanguard.
Sunday.
Sunday even, goodness gracious. The days are just doing this. Okay, so if we move on to the Sunday Vanguard, Lagos is explaining its jumbo budget and says 51% allocation is going to capital projects, and that will help the economy. Also, unrelenting bandits burn down Niger farms and threaten food supplies. There's a declaration, of course, from the president, we'd imagine. You can read now on page 2. When we talk about the drug chaos in Nigeria's southeast, that continues to escalate. You can read more on that on page 22. Tony Iranta says the Niger Delta mourns a man who stopped the 2015 Tony Uranta, rather, is the man who stopped the 2015 bombings by militants. You can read more on that on page 7. Of course, there are stories darted in and wrong there, but I imagine that's probably the gist of stories you want to carry.
The battle for the APC national chairman.
Where
Did you miss
that?
Yeah.
God, I should actually be upset. The battle for the APC national chairman intrigues as Tinubu camp reaches out to pro-CPC ex-governor. The fate of the ex-Lagos governor's ally, Ukume, is uncertain. Why I am in the race, says Saliu Mustafa, and a party reconciliation begins within the APC. You can read all of that on page 36.
Okay.
Yeah, we should take first the very painful exit of Tony Ranta. Tony, among several other things that he was, in his 67 years, sojourn at, was also a member of this day editorial board. Very active one, contributing, great ideas, And the tributes that have been flowing, since the demise of this great Nigerian from Niger Delta, from Opobo in River State, his memory, quite deserved them. Tony was one of those elements of the Niger Delta that actually intellectualized the struggle. He was very firm, very committed, very unyielding in fighting for justice and equity in the Niger Delta, fighting against environmental degradation, of the impoverished, region, that even though it is oil-rich, but his approach was decidedly peaceful, and he opted for the intellectual approach, the intellectual method, of fighting, the injustice, and was a very great moderating influence, on the younger elements, militants, the rest. Another great son of Niger Delta, Timi Alaibe, in his tribute, put it that it is now little forgotten that in 2015, when the Niger Delta Avengers, threatened that they were going to shut down oil production in Nigeria, they were going to make the whole place ungovernable. Tuni was one of those people who, used their influence, and the respect that they earned from the militant to ensure that there was peace, And on several occasions, he intervened, while fighting for justice, but to ensure that, that the struggle, was conducted in the most peaceful manner, very urbane, very decent, and a very honest, person to work with, on any project that you have, unfortunately, died last week after, some illness, all I say that is like they say,
yes,
may his tribe, increase, because Absolutely. We need more of people like that, especially
voices like
yes,
that.
More voices like that, could be, quite, positive, at the same time.
Our condolences, KK.
Yes,
Our condolences.
Thank you. Yeah.
I think we have just about a minute left on the newspaper review. Can we take Daily Trust really quickly so we can highlight this story that I always do every weekend, and that is the amount of days that our school children have been held in captivity by the Boko Haram insurgents. Federal Government College, Benin Yari, is 166 days. Bethel Baptist High School, 148 days. Our heart is broken. Really, really sad story, and we are just, you know.
You can only just imagine the agony of the parents, somebody having his son or daughter in captivity for 166 days, So we should not be tired of repeating it that the fate of these children, their lot, is an open sore on the conscience of this nation. It should never be taken as normal to have school children, instead of being in classroom, to be in captivity, The authorities, should perform their duty, and that is to ensure the liberation, of these students.
Thank you so much, Mr. Komolafe, and we'll see you next week.
Next week.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.